Nigel Farage is back in the papers, and this time he's not just coming for Brussels, he's coming for the coal. Yes, the man who led Britain out of the EU in the end now dreams of digging the country back into the 19th century, quite literally, with his latest political vision: reopening the coal mines of Wales. Forget green jobs, forget climate targets, forget clean air. Farage's fantasy is a Britain where soot-covered miners once again descend into the earth, shoveling black gold like it's still 1851. And that's not just a metaphor. Farage literally cited the 1851 census to justify this bold leap backwards, claiming that because Wales once had more industrial than agricultural workers, it must surely want to be reindustrialized, coal and all. He didn't reference the post-war coal closures or the health impacts or the death tolls from black lung, because why bother with history when nostalgia sells? But Farage's coal crusade is more than just a whimsical thought experiment. It's a deliberate attempt to tap into economic pain, post-industrial frustration, and national identity, just like Brexit once did. He's selling not solutions, but sentiments. Reform UK, under Farage's leadership, is trying to frame itself as the champion of the forgotten Britain, even if that means ignoring the very real reasons coal mines were shut in the first place. And let's be clear, this isn't about jobs. Farage isn't proposing large-scale retraining programs, advanced safety standards, or clean coal technologies. He's proposing a symbol, not a policy. A symbol that harks back to a Britain of chimneys and empire when smokestacks meant strength. And this is the same Farage who once said he'd rather have a pint with Trump than a conversation about climate change. It's the same Farage who rails against woke agendas while demanding a government department called Doge, no, not the cryptocurrency, but the Department of Government Efficiency, a Trump-style gimmick wrapped in for populism. He claims he wants to cut waste and redirect it to frontline services while simultaneously supporting policies that would privatize and gut those very same services. And we know how privatization worked on water. It's not efficient, it's not modern, and it's certainly not progressive. But it's classic Farage. Say something outrageous, grab the headlines, and force the other parties to respond. And meanwhile, under the surface, Reform UK is still the same UKIP in a new hat that helped enable Brexit and continues to inflame the politics of resentment. Their polling surge, now reportedly around 32%, reflects the same anti-establishment anger that fueled the Leave campaign in 2016. But anger alone doesn't govern. Anger alone doesn't provide clean energy or build schools or solve housing crises. And anger certainly doesn't resurrect the 1851 workforce to starve imaginary minds. And let's talk about education. Farage's attack on useless degrees is part of a broader cultural war, one where humanities, arts, and social sciences are dismissed as elite fluff, while manual trades are held up as the only respectable path for real people. But this isn't about lifting up vocational education, it's about tearing down the idea that education itself should be broad, diverse, and accessible. Farage's version of Britain is one where business degrees are scoffed at unless, of course, you studied at Dulwich College like he did or worked in the city trading metals like he did. He's not against privilege, he just wants you to think he's not part of it. And yet, his entire career has been built on media exposure, taxpayer-funded pensions from the EU he claimed to despise, and rhetorical tap dancing designed to exploit divisions and deepen distrust. His newfound push for government efficiency echoes the worst of American Trumpism: hollow departments with flashy names and zero substance, designed more for headlines than results. And his promise to fund frontline services by cutting woke spending ignores the reality that most public services are already under-resourced, not because of identity politics, but because of a decade of austerity from parties Reform UK once supported. Even his supporters admit that he's more showman than statesman. But right now, in a fractured Britain reeling from stagnant wages, broken promises, and post-Brexit confusion, showmanship works. And that's the danger. because it's easy to laugh at the absurdity of a coal mine revival. But if Farage is allowed to dominate the narrative again, yeah, you risk repeating the same mistake that led the people to Brexit in the first place. A campaign built on myth, marketed with bravado, and devoid of sustainable solutions. Wales deserves better. Britain deserves better. And if voters don't want to spend the next decade trapped in another fantasy, this time in the fantasy minds of Farage's imagination, it's time to call what it is. A distraction, not a direction. A gimmick, not a government plan. Coal doesn't fuel the future. Truth does. And the truth is, Reform UK is offering nothing more than a rerun of the past, just with more smoke and fewer mirrors. And Farage's vision isn't just outdated. It's dangerous because it preys on economic despair without ever addressing the underlying causes. He speaks of sovereignty once more, but pushes policies that make the UK more isolated. He champions blue-collar workers while proposing tax cuts for the wealthiest. And while he calls for government efficiency, he has no plan to tackle the very bureaucracies that slow down housing, healthcare, or energy reform. It's smoke and slogans, not steel and solutions. And his desire to revive coal is symbolic of his entire approach, a black and white vision in a technicolor world. As the UK stares down climate deadlines, global economic shifts, and political realignments, it cannot afford to waste another cycle chasing phantoms of the past. And yet, here we are, again forced to debate 19th century industry in a 21st century crisis. Perhaps the real coal mine is the echo chamber where Farage's fantasies are allowed to thrive, repeated and amplified until they seem plausible. But we've seen this playbook before. Brexit was sold as liberation. It delivered trade barriers, economic uncertainty, and fractured alliances. And now coal is being sold as salvation? What will it deliver? An illusion of power? More subsidies for dying industries? More political theatre at the expense of long-term vision? Britain must choose. Does it follow Farage back into the smog of industrial nostalgia, or does it finally demand leadership that looks forward? Not just to the next election, but to the next generation. You cannot mine your way out of the future. You have to build it with clean energy, honest politics, and policies that serve the people and not the headlines. Farage offers a mirror to the past, but the future deserves a window, open, transparent, and full of light.